Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bikini and the Brain. Today, I am lucky enough to have the Bikini in the house.
I'm back.
It was catastrophic. Our ratings were at 1.
Oh,
It was just my mom who watched
just
it.
a mom.
Just my mom. It was just Bikini-less is not the way to go, Ashley. We need you back.
I think they're all here
The
for
people,
you.
the people, they love you. The people.
No, I'm not everyone's flavor, but hey, everyone loves Adam Bonilla from TeamElitePhysique.com.
Yes, everyone. You're right. Everyone from TeamElitePhysique.com.
No,
Yes.
you're the fan favorite.
I appreciate the people who like it. It's funny. I do. What's funny is I like going to these events like the Fit Expos and stuff like that, and people are like, I listen to your podcast and then I want a picture. I'm like, why? Why do you listen? I'm like, you do that with your time? Like you need to do something better with your time. I'm just kidding.
No. It helps a lot of people get through cardio and long drives.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what I really love is when this is funny too. When someone will tell me something that I said a long time ago and I like forget. Yeah.
Or what if you changed your mind? Like,
yeah. You know what's really weird? This is okay to say now, but when I was single and I'd be like on a date with a girl or a dude, like she would know all about my life. She'd like bring it up, and I was like, "How do you?" I was so
because in episode 72
Yeah.
at the 32 minute and 20-second mark, you said this.
Yeah,
and it's freaky because they know it. They memorize.
They had, because I did vlogs before too, so my life is out there. And then you'd be like, oh, I know nothing about you, but you know like everything about me. It's so crazy. I don't really hide anything on my vlog or on anything. It's like my life, my whatever too, So that was kind of funny. It was just always kind of like, it was just kind of funny. I'm like, oh, you do, huh? You know that, huh?
It's kind of scary. You got to be careful what you say.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny. But anyway. So how was your weekend? How's everything? You've been gone for a week.
Yeah, I've been gone. I still have flakes of spray tan left.
Oh, yeah?
My nails aren't neutral anymore, so I guess I'm not competing this week or anything. But no, I've been exhausted, man. Jet lag. Gosh, traveling to the East Coast is like something else. And of course, as you may or may not know, I competed at the Pittsburgh Pro Show, and I know you did a post-show review. So if they're tuning into both the podcast and your post-show reviews, they know that already. But it is a 2-day show, the Pittsburgh. Well, it was this year. And man, that is tough.
Yeah.
So tough. And, I've traveled all over the world to compete. Dealt with jet lag. I've done shows that are week to week before. And we even did 2 shows in one weekend before.
Yeah.
But I got to say, the show to show is actually tougher. It is much harder. I don't know. You guys always hear me talk about like the post-show hangover, like no alcohol involved, but just that feeling of you feel like you got hit by a bus the day after show. Well, imagine that feeling and then having to compete. It's like, again, I got to do everything all over. I got to get retanned, makeup, hair, all the emotions, all the feels. And not only that, Pittsburgh was an evening show on both occasions. So I think it might have been a little easier if it was like a morning and then another morning, or even like a morning and then finals evening the next day. But they were both evening prejudging finals on, or evening prejudging on Friday, and then Saturday finals evening. So both were evenings. So it made it really difficult.
Yeah. I feel when I see
felt
those
so crusty.
When I see those 2-day shows, I feel really bad, especially for
the bodybuilders.
Bodybuilders
have it worse, honestly.
Because it can become dangerous for bodybuilders, right? They're cutting water for like 2 days. Like that's because they got to see cross striations. That's a different thing. It's a different beast. But with bikini girls that are at USA's or those 2-day shows, especially the ones I really feel bad for are the USA's 2-day shows, the girls who didn't get, like, they know they didn't get a first call out, but then they still have to go through the whole hair and makeup just to walk on stage for like 10 seconds the next day.
Yeah.
That's a rough, and then sit backstage for like 3 hours. Like that's a rough scenario on those.
Rough.
And you do see a lot of USA's athletes who maybe don't show up the second day. which is like, if you got third call out, it's a hard thing. I don't even really want to like publicly speak about my opinion on that, but it's a hard thing. So I understand it, but you'll see a lot of missed names on the USAs, and people are always like, oh, the judges will write it down and keep them. Like, they don't write it down and keep it against you. But I see the side, like, you're in Vegas and you're only going to be there to walk across the stage. I get it. So it's a hard one, And
it's like, when you are competing, like, it's not like you can do much on show day. It's not like I can be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go hiking, I'm going to go shopping, I'm going to, do fun things. It's like on these show to show or 2-day show scenarios, it's like you just stay in your hotel room and look at the wall, just like, and then overthinking everything. Yep, you get a whole 24 hours to overthink. It's like the worst part of a show is like that gap between prejudging and finals, like overthinking everything you did. Like, oh man, did I smile enough? Was I like, every little thought passes through your mind, like everything, and then you just overthink. Well, at least I do. I overthink everything. So it was like torture for like 24 hours, just being like, when I was like on stage when I was getting compared to, I can't remember. Did I move my hair like back onto my back, or was it stuck on my shoulder? Like, all those silly thoughts. So, but yeah, in summary, tough.
2-day shows. They're tough.
2-day shows are tough.
Be prepared for it.
Be prepared.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard too, because as a coach, like the 2-day thing is really difficult, because more times than not, you're trying to keep a girl's waistline small the day of the show. And then after that, you're like, okay, you can get your protein in after the show, get your water in, you're gonna be fine. And off that, but then you have to like maintain it for an additional, so that becomes a little bit difficult to, if you have a girl, luckily you're a good candidate to do 2-day shows.
Oh yeah, my body holds up well.
You don't flatten out that fast. Some girls just start fading, and you're like, then you're trying to feed them all day for the next day. You're thinking about the second day. So that's a difficult.
I'm a carb camel. You know that?
You are a carb camel.
And they are, my humps, they're like my hamstrings basically. So that's where it stores. And then when I need it, it just kind of flows throughout my body. But I have years of carbs stored.
We should be, that's how we've been doing things wrong. We've been doing things wrong. We need to measure the girth of your hamstring. And as they start shrinking, we know your carbs are being utilized. And then we've been doing this all wrong.
Yeah.
Your carb camel. I like that. It's a good one. You are a carb camel. You don't flatten out that fast.
No.
And even when you're flat, you look pretty good. You don't look bad. You look pretty good. You're still round. So that's pretty funny. So anyway,
I love being called round.
Yeah. Yeah. You're round. You're round and bubbly. You're not your waistline.
No, I just like think of like, how like it's funny because we're applying it to a fitness. It's good. Yeah. But if you were to apply it to like a normal person, like you're so round, like it makes it seem like they got a shape that's not desirable, and they're just a potato shaped person.
You're round. You're
funny. Very round. Like you got to get it together. No, I just funny at the irony.
So what are we going into fully today, Ashley?
So this is all about post-show reflections, the good and the bad, what can be improved and what already improved. So
yeah,
let's dive on in.
You'll use my line.
We're gonna dive in.
You just come back after a week on, you start using my lines.
Well,
She saw the ratings, and so she's like, I'm just going to take whatever I want. We had a rating of 1.
Next thing you know what I'm going to say next? Hey, we've got a great topic for you guys today.
Damn it, Ashley, that's my line.
This is a good topic for you guys today, unlike the other ones. This is a good topic.
Yeah, this one I like. Only this one out of the 200. What if it was only a good one finally at this point, and it just like we worked up, okay, we're going to start now. Here it is.
But were the other good ones a lie then? If you always say they were good,
it was fake news. There was a couple that weren't good that I said were good.
Yeah.
I didn't know they weren't good when I said it.
You're trying to be positive.
Yeah. I didn't know they weren't good. So there's definitely, they're all pretty decent podcasts, but there's definitely, right, in anything, there's better ones than worse and better. Yeah. So I think this one this is
the one that's actually good. We lied to you previously. What you thought was good. No.
This is our peak.
This one, if If you choose to tune into one, it better be this one.
It's all downhill from here.
Sorry to disappoint in advance.
You guys could stop tuning it after this one.
Just kidding.
No, I'm watching the ratings. No, so I like this episode too because we're going to talk about your recent show. We're going to talk about what you should do when you competed recently, feedback, good, bad, ugly, all that, and kind of go from there. So, and if you have questions on this one or on your feedback or questions about this type of thing, right? What do I do in the off season when I'm just starting after a show, after I got this feedback? Leave it in the comments. We're going to always do those questions, answering questions in the comments too. So yeah. So Ashley, you did a great job. You were in Pittsburgh. You finished with the second place, which was a crazy close show, 1 point decision, which is wild. That happened. It's tough in bikini when it's 1 point. That's crazy.
It's a nail biter for sure.
I mean, that's a coin toss situation, a 50-50 situation, and so, you had fun. You had got some feedback. This is one of the big shows, one of the majors of the year. 2-day show. How do you feel?
I feel, I guess I feel a little torn because I feel like I did make some good improvements. Like, I don't know if you guys even noticed, but we're going to give you a little scoop. I came into the show a few pounds heavier.
Yeah.
A few pounds heavier. And I think I was visibly bigger. I do. And, some people notice it, but I don't expect everyone to have that eye. You see my check-ins every week. You see what I look like from show to show. So you know what my previous was and now. But yes, I did put on a little size. I came in a little fuller. I wasn't quite as lean as, like, let's say in Olympia. I came in slightly fuller, I guess, softer. But, that's, again, playing with the fullness game. So I'll let you explain it better than me. But just briefly, when you try to bring in your fullest package, it's usually also not your leanest. Is it possible to have your leanest and fullest package? Technically, but it's very rare.
It's super rare.
Very rare. Like I wouldn't say like my fullest package was ever my leanest and vice versa. Like I might have had my leanest package at like Olympia last year or whatever. I don't think it was Olympia. It was probably let's take it back. Mile High in 2018 was probably my leanest, but by far not my fullest. Yeah. Right? So there's always like a give and take. Usually if you're playing the fullness game, you're not going to be quite as lean. So I was a few pounds heavier. Not saying it's all muscle. That's kind of hard to do. But fullness and filling up that muscle with glycogen, right?
Yeah.
So I came a little fuller, and yes, I have been working on my arms. Thanks for the compliments, everyone. Thank you. So I came in a little bit fuller, slightly softer. I do think I put on a little bit of size, just a smidgely tad up top, which is where I needed it most. But if you want to do you want to elaborate a little bit on fullness and playing the fullness game and why we did it a little bit? We pushed it a little more. So,
and just to give you guys a reference point, if my numbers are correct, which I think they are, going back to the Olympia, I'm trying to remember 5 years or so ago, you're six pounds heavier on stage day at Pittsburgh than you were at the Mile High. Is it 6 or 5?
So Mile High, my return in 2018, I was, I think like...
That was 17.
No, 18, Adam.
Okay.
17 was my fat year.
117, sorry. 117.
Oh.
Yeah, it was right.
2017,
it was 2018.
I was that round body down. I wasn't round, but no, I was a little fluffy. You
hold body fat pretty good though. You do.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, I try. But that was my off year. But in 2018, I think I was 117. I want to say maybe even lighter.
Might have been. You have to look back at that. Either 116 or 117.
I know it wasn't past that.
No.
Probably was 117.
Yeah. And then, okay.
So like 6 pounds up.
Pretty cool. That. Yeah, it's a lot. When you talk about skeletal muscle, that's a lot.
Yeah. Some of it's just maybe glycogen, but
there's probably I would say the difference of body fat from that show to this show is probably like half a pound to 1 pound tops. Like it's not that much softer. But the difference of look when we talk about, again, fullness here and glycogen. So in today's bikini, they are picking of a fuller physique. There's no doubt about that from years prior. And you could see kind of the evolution. And I'm actually going to do like an evolution video this week, which is going to be pretty fun. going over like Olympia winners and like the visual differences of when things started kind of shifting and when something started. So like when the lat started, when the conditioning started, when all these different things. So that's gonna be kind of fun so people can visually see, oh, this is when it happened and then it became a thing. And then this is when it happened and then it became a thing and repeating. So when we're looking at the Fullness game, you have a lot of different ways of attacking it. So in prior Bikini, you had there was a period where girls were a little smaller and almost a little like you would actually say a little flatter, a little flatter on the look. They weren't 100% filled out. You were erring on the side of conditioning, and the arms weren't so big. There was no lats. Lats were never talked about before. In 2007, it was almost like I remember once I said it to a judge, like a high level judge, and I said, "Yeah, I think she needs more lat," and he was like, "Lat? Who cares about lats? Like, we're not looking at lats." Like he said it to me like it's like a joke, right? And I'm like, and then it was like the next year they're like, she needs more lat. I was like, what? Could you guys give me a memo here? Because I was told, just what are you talking about lats for? They're like, what do you need lats for? Beginning girls don't need lats. It was funny. So we would not train the back at a certain. Remember, we weren't training the back at all because we were like, well, it could even thicken the waist because the way the lat inserts so low in the back.
Yeah, because my lats are kind of low.
Yeah. So we just were like, yeah, let's just not train it. If they're not going to judge it, let's not train it. It'll keep your waistline smaller because the lat's attached at the very low end of the back of the waistline. Mm-hmm. And so let's just, if they're saying don't, then we won't, So Bikini is very specific in that way where you want to train specifically for the sport if you want to be good at the sport. And that's why I'll see, a lot of athletes that are saying, oh, I want to be good in Bikini. They're still doing a lot of chest and stuff. They have like a full chest day. I'm like, why are you doing this? If you want to be good in Bikini, they're never going to judge you on your chest, like your chest muscles, right? So why are you wasting time doing that, right? You train for what you need. And that's where this feedback thing comes. Train for what you need. So anyway, the Fullness game is when you think of a sponge and you dip it in water, that is your absolute fullest. Okay, that's your absolute fullest. But also think when you pull that sponge out of the water, there's water dripping off the sponge. That is spilling, right? That's that point of spilling. So you have a dry sponge from prep. This is a good analogy. I just came up with it.
Yeah, good job.
You like this? Yeah, I like it. I'm actually really liking this. So it's a dry sponge. You take it out of the package. It's dry. That is what you look like when you are finished with your prep. Sponge is small. You feel kind of stringy. You feel flat. You're emailing your coach.
Crusty.
Yeah, crusty and hard.
Like beef jerky.
Yeah. And you're emailing your coach saying, oh, I'm so flat. And your coach is writing back.
I lost all my muscle. Oh my God.
Yeah, your coach is writing back. You're supposed to be flat. No one is going to be full throughout your prep. Like that's part of it. That's what you want to do. And what is that? Okay. So the water is the glycogen. So the water in the sponge is the glycogen. There's also water in the sponge. So whenever you store carbohydrates, you store water with it. So you store carbohydrates as glycogen, which is glucose in its second form, and when it's stored. So it's glycogen, and then there's water that comes with that. It's estimated at 2.7 grams of water per every gram of glucose that's stored as glycogen. So you're storing quite a bit of water in the muscle cell. Now, the water, so what you do is, okay, we dry you out, you get that dry sponge. We do that all the way through prep. You're stringy, you're small, you're a little flat. Not everyone, it'll be different degrees. Some people will be not flat at all going into because they're kind of very slowly dieting. I have some pros, some amateurs that eat all the way through and they don't really get flat. They are doing carb cycling maybe. They're getting, 2 days of high calories and they're staying pretty full. Then I have some that are just grinders, it's just up to their body and they're a grinder and that's how it has to be to get them in shape. They're the dry sponge. So at the end during peak week, we dip them in water. Fill them with glucose, fill them with carbs. We try to fill that sponge up, but we try not to dip them in water and have them come out with all that water dripping off of it. Okay, so the water dripping off of them is representing spilled carbs. So carbs that are still outside of the muscle cell, water that's still attached to those carbohydrates or that glucose outside of the muscle cell. So you have your intracellular glucose, which is basically in the cells, and you have your extracellular, which is outside the cells, kind of waiting to be absorbed into the cell, right? So you have both of those. If you take in too many, you're going to have too many sitting outside of the cell. Remember what I said, the water attaches to the glucose molecule, right? And so you're going to hold more water when you ate too many carbs because they're still outside the cell, they're still attached to water, and they are waiting to come in, right? So that's kind of how that whole spilling comes out. So that's spilling. So spilling over is the water dripping off the sponge where the glucose is kind of outside the cell, blurring the physique a little bit, waiting to get inside the cell. So if you overfill, Okay. We call fill. So there's this thing I call fill and spill, which I love. I love fill and spilling. It's super rare. I can rarely fill and spill, but man, do I take advantage of it when I can. And so what filling and spilling is I get a girl too lean on purpose. And that's great when that happens. It's, I don't try to get them crazy lean, but I try to get them like a week too lean. So where they would have been maybe 1 week, 2 weeks too lean. And then I'm like, don't worry. And it's usually only kind of smaller girls I'll do it with, where they're a little undersized, because I want them to be spilled over so they look bigger, right? Mm-hmm. They have more outside the cell and they look a little bigger. It's a little bit of like a fake look of muscle. And so with them, I'll diet them too hard, and then I'll just fill and spill them. I'll spill them purposely because they need to look softer because they're too lean, and then they look bigger, and I know they've reached 100% fullness. Mm-hmm. That's a very rare thing. It's something that shouldn't be played with unless you have a very good eye at this and you're very experienced. So if your coaches are listening to this and you think you're going to nail a fill and spill, good luck. It's freaking hard. You need to really have practice with that. And if you're an athlete doing it on your own, don't even try it. Like, just don't even mess with it. It's really hard. And now when it comes to filling someone out, you want to err on the side of conditioning. You want to be a little bit leaner. So if you're trying to shoot for 100% fullness as like a bodybuilder or a men's physique guy, you probably don't want to try that, because you need to be shredded lean. The leaner you are, the better. In men's physique, in classic bodybuilding, all of those, the leaner you are, the better for the most part. So I would never try to err on the side of being 100% full. And that's where you see a lot of like bodybuilders mess up. On bikini athletes, you still generally don't want to err on the side of overfilling, because you're going to soften up quite a bit. So you want to kind of be like, the golden rule of thumb is like being like 90% full for a bikini athlete. If you can get her 90% full and you're still staying lean, then great. But even 90%, you start getting a little softer because you're having more water in the muscle cell. You're blurring it a little bit. So it's really rare that someone's going to be 100% full and 100% tight at the same time, because the blurring effect that happens with all the extra water that's, being absorbed in the muscle cell, and spilling too. Maybe you had too many. So it's a really rare thing. So you want to be kind of looking your best at around 90% full. And then the problem is that this happens to every coach. Anytime a girl doesn't win, which is, all the time, right? Only one girl wins the show. Anytime, and I'm not saying Ashley, but like less experienced girls, if they get second, third, fourth, fifth, they're like, the next day they eat, and then they're like, oh, I should have ate this because I was way fuller the next day. I'm like, I know you were fuller the next day. We weren't shooting for 100% fullness because you weren't lean enough to shoot for 100% fullness. We didn't try to fill and spill you. Like, yeah, when you ate a burger and fries the next day, yeah, you felt you had more vascularity, but your waistline's not as small. Let's forget that, right? Let's not forget that this is still a game of aesthetics, of ratios, of small waist to hip ratios, of shoulder to waist to hip ratios, right? So just so you guys have that in your head, you will be fuller after the show. After you eat your cheat meal, you will be fuller. Even if you're already filled out, you're going to feel fuller because you have like a lot of sodium. You have, you're seeing all these veins. You're just feeling great because you have more calories in your system. Your body looks refreshed because you have more calories in your system. We know that. That's part of it. Like, you're not telling your coach anything new by saying, hey, I was fuller after I ate donuts and burgers. Yeah, no kidding. I was fuller too the next day after I ate donuts and burgers. So there you go. There's a good, I guess, little breakdown on fullness. And I like that sponge analogy. I bet that's going to be used.
Totally. Yeah. So it's not like, I even did I wasn't like playing the fullness like game to that extent where I was going to spill. But yeah, when I said we came in a little fuller, I think, and not even more so, I think it more so had to do with like, I didn't quite deplete myself as much as usual.
Yeah.
I think I kind of just coasted in rather than just like usually push it kind of hard and then, carb up a little bit before the show. But I think like, I don't think my calories were as low or my cardio was as high as typical. So I was able to kind of keep in those carbs a little longer, and they kind of maintained and stored in my body. But yeah, so we did try a little more full, a little less condition, and it's very slight. Like I said, I don't even think our viewers would even notice the factor of being a little bit less lean. And to be fair too, is like, even when you see photos and stuff online and videos, they're all different from stage to show, like for lighting and different cameras. Even one person can look really soft and in one show and look completely different in another, even though they're the same, just because of the lighting and all those other factors I just mentioned. So yeah, long story short, I was a little bit less lean and a little bit more full. And I do think I did put on a little bit of muscle from my previous show too. So that was good. You know, we're trying to make improvements and trying to kind of keep up with the standards. Cause like we've mentioned before, like I don't really have that thick structure. I have like more narrow
petite physique.
Petite. Not that I'm short. I'm 5'5.5". So I'm medium height. I'm average, but like, you know, you can look at me and look at somebody else and just like the thickness in general. It's hard to explain, but
like wrist size, joint structure,
joints.
You have
I always look at
wrist.
people's ankles too.
That's why I usually will grab, like if someone's trying to figure out, I'll like grab their wrist and be like, you have a small structure, you have this structure, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I always look at people's like calves and ankles because like you see those really thick calves that kind of go lower. Usually it's like a thicker structure and like their ankles. Like my ankles are so tiny. It's like, oh, it's your little ankle. My calves aren't small, but like ankles are. But yeah, so, you know, we're just trying to keep up with trends, I guess. And the girls have gotten quite thick in the last few years and just trying to keep up with it all. And I know everyone has a different physique, so you just got to do what's best for your physique and try different things. And overall, I think physique-wise, pretty good look. I think on Friday, I was softer than I was Saturday. I think I tightened up a bit on Saturday because on show day, I'm not hungry. It's hard for me to eat, so I didn't eat that much. But I actually looked better on Saturday, and even judges, a few of them pointed out, like, yeah, you looked better today than you did Friday. So I was like, oh, great. Nice. So it's funny because it's like I actually tightened up. I don't know if I got any fuller necessarily, but I think I gave the illusion of being a little bit fuller because I was a little tighter, which is like kind of like proves our like, well, not our point, but like I always think that I look better as a tighter competitor because I pop more. And I think it kind of like assures me that it is the case.
Yeah, because some of the judges said that. They said, you looked a little fuller on.
Yeah, and I'm
today.
like,
and
I don't know how.
I'm like, there's no way you didn't eat enough food. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, but I was definitely tighter though. Yeah, for sure. So I think it just gave that illusion. But who knows? Maybe I actually was. Yeah. A lot of things come into play. You know, humidity, like your H2O, sodium, electrolytes, sleep, everything. So maybe I was. It's hard to evaluate yourself with your own eyes, you know, but I mean, I know for a fact I was tighter on Saturday, but fuller, not so sure. So a lot of you guys are wondering what the feedback was, and it's funny because I was like reading the comments in the post show review. A lot of people said my posing, and actually, believe it or not, it wasn't. And I kind of did this to myself because on my Instagram, I posted like first off, let me rewind. Let me just say this. I felt so off on Friday for prejudging. Before going on stage, I felt so off. And what I mean by that is not necessarily like physique wise and not even necessarily confidence, I would say. I just like, have you ever just felt like foggy? Like you couldn't focus on something. Like you're just like out of sorts. Like you're just like, huh? Like what? You know, like just, you know what I mean? Like
it's one of those days. Yeah.
Like you can't, your brain won't connect to your physique, I guess. And I think I just couldn't, like, it wasn't my normal feeling. Usually I'm pretty excited or, you know, sometimes nervous. And I was nervous too, a little bit, but more so like I just couldn't like focus. I just felt so out of it. It was weird. I think maybe because I wasn't sleeping well and the fact it was an evening show, I just felt so off. I felt off. And even like, so like the double vision issue I have, it gets so much worse when I can't focus. Like literally when you can't focus, like your brain, I can't focus my eyes because my eyes, the little muscles are controlling it. So my double vision was quite bad on this particular day, which made it not ideal, but I felt very off. I did. Yeah. So it definitely translated a little bit to my routine. It was a little choppy, that routine, not my best routine at all. And I even stuttered a little bit. Yeah, I stuttered. I don't even think necessarily the stutter was what made it look bad though. I just felt not myself.
Yeah.
I just felt like a different person. It was weird. I can't even explain it. But
some of it's, you haven't been competing as much. You know, I think you are someone who needs practice and more regularity in competing.
Oh,
is
yeah, that's why
yeah,
when I do show to shows, like I'm on fire. I'm just like, whatever. Even because it's funny you say that, because on Saturday it was much smoother, but I don't want to attribute it to that necessarily, because I know it's like not a provable thing, but I did feel off mentally, like, and I couldn't connect. Like, it just felt weird, almost like a little like mini stage fright. Like, what am I doing here kind of thing. I don't know.
It's cool to see that you still have this though.
Yeah.
Because I think I think we shouldn't just skip over that. I think that's important to talk about, because very few athletes have as many shows as you do, and you still get those feelings, those nerves and whatnot.
A little bit, but I want to say mostly it wasn't that. I mean, I always get a little bit nervous. I think everyone does, and I think everyone should, because it shows you care. Like, I've never went into a show just been like, all right, let's just get it over with. Like, I think it's good. It does show that it's something that means something to you. And I think most athletes would say they get a little nervous.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't focus myself. I couldn't connect mind to body. I don't know. But anyway, I did make a little stutter. But here's the thing about stutters too, is like, I think a lot of people like overthink it, and they think it's like the worst thing. And it's definitely not ideal, but you just got to recover from it. And even Miss Bikini International, her routine, she stuttered too.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, you'll see it. If you look for it, you'll find it. Even like people that are winning these big shows, and you'll see it in Olympia too. You just got to kind of recover from it. But I'm not even saying it was like the stutter necessarily. That was the issue. It just looked choppy, and it was just not my best. I just wasn't feeling it. I was not feeling it. Couldn't focus. Wasn't feeling it.
It might have translated to confidence and whatnot too.
Perhaps, and maybe it's a mix of a lot of it.
Yeah. It's so crazy how many things go into a bikini competition.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause all that's a factor, all these little things are factors. It's so crazy, stage presence, confidence, how you exude confidence, how you shine on stage when you come out, how smooth the routine is, like all these little things, how much muscle, like all this. So if it was just, not saying that would be any reason for the difference of the point or anything like that. It's just, we all should always strive to be best on stage day with all that. So
totally. There's thousands of things to think about. Yeah. Like, does my hair look okay? Did I stand in the right spot? Like, everything. So much that goes in your mind. But going back to what my judges' feedback was, so I actually posted that video unedited, and I even put in my caption, I was like, I'm posting this raw, or I shouldn't say raw, because I guess it came from the videographer, so it wouldn't be raw from your cell phone, but I'm posting this without the edit. Like, I could edit that part out or stop the video there, but I posted the whole thing because I just want to show people, like, happens to the best of us, okay? Happens. I stuttered. It is what it is. That's life. And, kind of shot myself in the foot a little bit there, because then everyone thinks that that's why I didn't win. And I don't think that's the case, because funny enough, judges' feedback, nothing of that sort was mentioned. Not posing, nothing. In fact, they're like, your front pose is really good. Like, I even got that as one of my feedbacks, but nothing was like, oh, you stuttered, or, oh, your posing was off. Like, it's something that, like, I pointed out myself, and I pointed it out to the world, and I think I shot myself in the foot because everyone thinks that's what it was.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't actually. But it definitely didn't help. I will say that. Like, it's not like that was helping me in any way. But it's like one of those things that's like, I should know better, and I don't know. I can't explain it. It's kind of like frustrating to me too, because it's like, I don't know why this happened, and I don't know why I was feeling this way, but I just head all over the place, jet lag, couldn't focus, everything. So just not my best routine. So, not my best, but I think my physique looked pretty good. You know what I mean? And I will say, I think I was having a really good hair and makeup day. Yeah.
You were having a good waistline day too.
Second day on Saturday was much better.
Okay.
Friday was not. Maybe
because of the less food on Saturday, that makes sense. It would be smaller. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was looking at the pictures. I was like, man, her waistline looks snatched this time. It was like, looking small. But it must have been the Saturday pictures I was looking at.
Saturday looks much better, I think. But, yeah. But it was a good show. And it was, You know what's funny is like somebody on your video asked, they're like, why did she keep it so like secret and didn't like announce it that much? And it's like, you know, it kind of goes back to like, sometimes I just don't want that extra pressure, like the burden of expectation, which I always talk about here is like, you know, there's probably only one downside of being successful and winning previously and winning Olympia is now you carry with you with every show you do the burden of expectation. You're not just a number. People have expectations for you. People know what your best looks like. And if you don't meet that, or you don't win, or you do less than what people thought, it's like a big disappointment. And it just, you feel like you let people down, and then people are just like, oh my God, what happened? Oh my God, what happened to her? She's on the decline. Oh my God. It's like people make such a big deal of it. And it's like, I've even like last year, I won a few not Olympia shows too. Like, hello, I don't have undefeated seasons. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Did you get me mixed up with someone else? I never had an undefeated season. I don't know why this is shocking.
I had someone ask me that too. They're like, oh man, are you, someone asked me if I was upset about you losing. I was like, no. I'm like, she loses every year. I'm like, well, I'm very used to her losing.
I
like
know.
It happens if she does 10 shows, 3, 4, whatever.
Sorry, I apologize for being human. Like, geez, if I compete 10 times, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, no,
my apologies.
Why would I be like? I'm very used to it. Whenever like you think it's like all of a sudden it happened, it was like, it's like we had a perfect season and lost the Super Bowl. I'm like, that's not what happened. This is not the Super Bowl.
Oh, geez, I know. It's so silly.
It's so funny.
And it's like, yeah, it's like the burden of expectation, because if I was a no one, if I was just a number, if I was just like one of your other athletes or whatever, I don't think people would have that kind of expectation. And that it does suck, because it's like whenever you don't do as well as people think, people assume like you're on the decline. Like, oh my God, what happened? Just like, I even had some people be like, oh my God, she's just getting thinner and smaller and small. I'm like, no, I wasn't. No, I got bigger. I just think like the winner was exceptionally much bigger. Yeah. I think that's why I looked smaller, but I was not small. I promise.
That would make sense.
You know what I'm saying?
You would look smaller next to her in reference. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would look visually, you'd look a lot smaller.
I'm like, no, I'm not getting smaller. I just think people think that like just again, comparing you to like the best that you were, or what their idea of the best was. And then like the fact that the win, like if you don't win, it's like, oh my God. It's like, oh my God, this is tragic. And it's like I've mentioned, I never go into any show expecting to win. I think that's really silly, especially in bikini. You cannot expect to win, you know? Yeah. You just got to go in with like, hey, I gave it my all. He's in the barn. What's done is done. Just got to show my best on stage. So it's like, yeah, I think that's like the hardest thing about being successful is the burden of expectation. Everyone's always got these expectations for you. And if you don't meet that, it's like just such a disappointment.
And you get a lot more, I think, because you compete a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because when it happens, because it's funny in bikini, if you look at the top 10 in bikini, the ones that compete often, or at least throughout the year, and you run into 2 top 10ers in bikini throughout the year, they're switching places all the time. I mean, you could look at the year that Jennifer won the Olympia, she lost the Tampa Pro. I think she was like third, and I think Daraja and someone else beat her, and then she won the Olympia. And then last year, we had people who, like someone beat you that you beat at the Olympia, and then we had that stuff happens, like the top 10, especially in bikini. There's flip-flops like all the time in the regular shows. And so we see that throughout the year. It's just because bikini is so subjective. There's just so many different looks, different judges' preferences, different lightings. Like it's just, you see these, and they're so close already in that top 10. You can make an argument for almost everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone in that top 10 for an argument for them being the Olympia champion. You can look at them and be like, well, technically this girl's too big and she's this and she's that. And you could like make an argument, and it's just so not cut and clear like bodybuilding. Like it's just so much different,
Yeah, totally. That's you've got to be so mentally strong in bikini for this reason. You know what I mean? And even for girls that go show to show to show, placings are all over the place, up and down. And it could even not even be necessarily due to a physique change, but just different panel judges. They want something different. Somebody shined brighter that day, So like, I think overall, package was good. Physique, hair, makeup, probably the best hair and makeup in a while, honestly. So Sam helped me do my hair. I did my makeup. So I was happy with that. I think the one thing I wasn't happy with, though, is the posing. I think if there's one thing, just, again, not that they even pointed it out to me. I'm the one that pointed it out to the world. Wasn't my best. Did not flow as well as typical. Not saying I'm like the best poser ever, but like, I know I'm usually a little more smooth than that.
Yeah. And that's a good thing for people who are watching this who want to practice their own, like use these lessons for themselves. And that's what I always say too, is like, I've had so many mishaps, mistakes, whatever. Let me learn those lessons so that way you don't have to learn them on yourself. So that's Absolutely. One for you. It's like, maybe when you're, listening to this and you're trying to advance to the next level and you're going to a big show like nationals, or even if a small show is big to you, then, practice your posing routine, make sure you're fluid, do something about, make sure you're mentally there. I think bikini is mentally in this sport is probably the toughest mentally, because the judging, the swings are all over the place. It's just you could make an argument for pretty much any girl in the top 3 anytime at a pro show that girl should have won. And then the other mental part that's tough about it is you're always doing working the same body parts all the time. And that's why I tell like bodybuilder and guy friends that'll like razz me for like always working with bikini girls. And I'm like, they're not as big, but in relative strength, they're the same strength as you in relativity to your size. And they're working the same muscles all the time. Like you go do glute bridges 3 times a week, work your glutes and your hamstrings 3 times a week, and your shoulders 3 times a week. And you tell me after 2 years if you still want to do this. And then you go to a show and you tell me that you've looked your best, but the judges have you at your worst placing. And then it happens 3 times. And then the 4th time you win the whole thing. And then you tell me how much motivation, how strong mentally you are, and how confident you are at the 5th show.
Right.
You tell me that. I want to see you at that point, because you got to do an arm day, you got to do a shoulder day, you do a back day. You know where you're at in bodybuilding. You know where you're at. Like if you're going into a show and you're competing against, the top 3 guys and you were like 7th, you still need to make improvement. It's very rare you're going to just all of a sudden jump up. Right. Like you can look at them and be like, no, he's still bigger than me. He's still better than me. Like there's no surprise, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, whoever's a little off this day, I took her spot in bikini,
Yeah.
I took her, and she's not off by that much. It's just that judge preferenced more muscle, that judge preferenced softer conditioning, that judge preference, and it's like, this is the perfect opportunity to take her because this judge likes this, or she was off here. And it's like, it's a really tough sport, and people, I just hope they listen to these and they take it in, and they don't take it as a hit when you lose, because it is all over the place. I mean, I'll give you, Kimber's a great example this weekend, right? So different judges prefer different things. She's been working her way up. She was 6th, then 5th, then 4th, first call outs the last 3 shows, right? And then this show, second call out, but she looked her best. Oh. She did exactly what they said to do.
Just
they said
a different panel of judges.
A new judge. We've never seen this judge
different
before.
Girls. Yeah. Every scenario is different.
Yeah. It was, Jack was the judge. He told her to get bigger lats, but, which is funny. We just talked about lats not even being a thing, and she's got some pretty big lats. I was like, I don't know about that.
She's gonna fly away pretty soon with those lats.
Pretty crazy lats. So, but whatever. So, but it's just another point. It's like, hey, you could have competed in another show that same weekend, got in 3rd. Like you looked better. You could have done that same look the previous weekend and placed higher. Right. So it's a tough one. And
definitely
girls have to be mentally understanding, like, hey, there's going to be swings in this, because the bikini division itself is so subjective.
Right. Totally. Totally. Yeah. Every show is a learning lesson. Let me tell you, even on the times that I win, there is something that I can improve, something that I've learned, something I can do better, because no show is ever perfect. Even if it's something so small, like, I should have brushed my hair off my shoulder when I transitioned, anything. Always a learning lesson. So as long as you take those learning lessons and apply them for next time, I think overall you'll be successful. And just like you said, different scenarios, different judges, different panels will always, there's no way to, how do I say it, like precisely measure improvements with all those factors in, because, what one judge think is an improvement, the other judge thinks it's a backtrack, you know, like, oh, it's too much now, like, you know, anything. But not saying that was my reason, you know. I think just the competition was freaking tough, and you know.
Yeah, it's Pittsburgh Pro, man.
Of course.
Yeah. 2-day
and
show, Pittsburgh
I'm
Pro,
not,
different judges. And
it's not that I didn't think that could be a possibility. So it's, I don't want anybody to think I'm like too down on myself on that, because I'm not. I'm just, like as a competitor, it's like those little stupid mistakes you make that are frustrating. And I think I can definitely do better and try to get in a better mindset, I guess, before stage, and just think of, I don't know, maybe I just need a new pump up song or something. I don't know, to kind of get me focused. But hopefully no more evening prejudges. I think I'm definitely more of a morning person, and you know, I fade by the end of the day. So it's like, yeah.
Energy,
mood, focus, mood. I wasn't in a good mood that day either. I wasn't. So
we need those morning shows for you.
Morning shows. I am such a
riser.
freaking morning person. Gosh, I'll be up at like 4 a.m. and be like, hi, everyone.
It's worse for you, too.
I wish we filmed these at 4 a.m.
It's worse for you on the East Coast because you're not reset yet when you get there.
Yeah.
So you're like up way early. So your nighttime is like a 6 o'clock show to you is like 9 o'clock to you, and you're in bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so much worse for you.
Definitely.
You pay for those East Coast shows.
For sure. So, ultimately, judges' feedback, I gave a little bit of it, but one judge said, oh, you're good to go. You know, there's like, 7 judges. They're like, I wouldn't change anything. Just keep how you are. Another judge said, you looked better on Saturday, but your conditioning's great. Everything's great. They thought I looked a little fuller on Saturday. And then she also complimented me on my walk. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Okay.
That's cool.
And it's like, you know what? The key to that is not to overthink it. I was probably doing that before my routine too, overthinking. And then another judge said the same thing. We liked her to look better on Saturday. You looked fuller. So just try to emulate that. And then another compliment was you had a really good front pose too. So I was like, okay, well, it's good feedback. You know, I think we'll obviously try to emulate more of the Saturday look. Again, so hard to calculate these when it's like a 2-day show. It's like, do I start covering up now or later? I just think I was a little tighter on Saturday, and I think that suits me a little bit better. But you know, I do look at my pictures, and I'm quite impressed by my upper body, because it's just like I posted on my story from just 2 years ago what my upper body looked like in comparison to now is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's getting better.
Yeah.
It's getting better slowly but surely, but I was happy to see okay.
Visual improvements.
Yeah. I don't think my arms are they're kind of in the mix.
Yeah.
They're in the arm mix now. Whereas okay, we're starting to even it out a little bit. And not one judge said this time to put more muscle on.
Huh.
No one. They said fullness.
Yeah.
So I guess technically fullness, well, then again, you can't put on muscle in a day.
Yeah.
If they said you looked fuller Saturday, that looked better. So not one said I was not muscular enough or said anything about that. So we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. For sure.
We're moving in the right direction. However, I do realize with that being said, although it wasn't stated to me, the trend does seem to be bigger, more muscular, thick girls. Yeah. So I got to start delivering.
Yeah. Fuller is definitely trending. They can, it's visually, you can see it visually,
Yeah. Even though it's not said, I think there is a little bit of leeway for different body types though, because not everyone has the same body type, but if I can try to, of course, I think a little more muscle would benefit me is what I'm trying to say.
For sure. Yeah. So what I thought was awesome. I thought it looked great. It was a fun show. It was good. It was a good show for the community too, to see a good battle like that, a high level show. I love it when athletes are actually competing in it. That's what I was talking to one of the judges the other day. I was like, do you like it when these top level people compete often, or would you prefer them just competing at the Olympia? And he was like, yeah, no, I like it. It's better for the industry when girls are competing often. There's no excitement when you start losing your, it's hard to be a fan is what he said. It's hard to be a fan when you see your competitor compete one time a year, like your favorite competitor once, maybe twice a year. It's it's just, what other sport does that? You get to see your favorite competitor. What if there's a show in your city, and every single year for the last 5 years, your favorite bikini pro didn't compete there. Like any pros that you really follow didn't compete there. It's all just rookies, and then everyone who competed for the Olympia just does the Olympia, you know? So I think it's great that you did that. And I think it was great for the fans to see a lot of these names that they wanted to see, and create some excitement for it, keep some hype for the Olympia too, you know?
Totally. So. Yeah. And we're still getting better over here.
Yeah.
Like I was my biggest, my, I don't want to say most muscular ever, but like, was I like, what's a good term to use?
I actually think you were your most muscular, and your fullest ever, you know?
Well, I wouldn't say my fullest. I wouldn't say, because I've spilled before. And I think, honestly, my fullest was the Sasquatch Pro last year. But it wasn't my best look. I was the fullest, but it wasn't my best look.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. You just weren't as tight. So, yeah. So I think in balance, I guess we're talking about balancing total package.
Right.
You know, that was
your fullness to leanness ratio.
But it looks like they still are going to err on the side of conditioning for you if they liked you better on Saturday, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of like the thing too, is like something that we can get into real quick is also like how some competitors look better, more conditioned, and then others don't. Yeah. You'll see some competitors come in softer and they win, and that looks great on them. I don't think I'm one of those.
Yeah.
So it's I got to be a little tighter. Not the tightest. I'm never like the tightest one on stage. I'm never the leanest, nor do I want to be, because you'd never want to be like the leanest or the softest. You kind of want to be in the middle. But I am probably on the leaner half of it. Just because I do think it makes my physique pop more. Yeah. That's just my structure.
Yeah, and that's the only downside to that is that with the leaner you are, the smaller you're gonna look too, right? So there's because that layer of fat is more size, that's right? True. So there's the only downside to that. So
it's like I pop more individually, but in comparison, then you start to look a little decreased.
Yeah, if someone is a thicker structure than you, has more muscle, and is allowed to have more body fat, you know, then you're going to start those things accumulating, you're going to start looking a little smaller. And then when you see pictures, you're like, oh yeah, she's getting smaller. True. She's not, she's bigger, but that's what those things have.
So I'm not getting smaller, guys. Like, rest assured, it's just who I'm standing next to. I'm not getting smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know that's always what people say. They're like, see, she competes too much, she's just getting smaller. She's losing all her muscle. No, not the case. So chill.
Yeah. Don't worry.
I'm getting beefy over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those people are saying that are just like blue-haired, 50-pound overweight internet trolls. So I don't even
think they follow the sport. No. It's people that follow the sport think I'm getting like small because I compete often. They think like I'm getting
stealing Olympia qualifications.
No, I'm not getting smaller. I didn't even deplete that much for this show. So, geez, I didn't get that much smaller.
So,
anyway,
but we have some. So this is a bad segue. I just like jumped in because I had it pulled up, but just to give some dates for people, because people are always wanting the dates. I'm going to throw out some dates for our next posing classes, because we're talking about posing a little bit. Yeah. So June 17th at the Prep Center here, 10 a.m. free posing. July 15th free posing, followed by glute camps, guys. So 10 a.m. So if you have want to make a trip to Vegas, it's super cheap to get the hotels in Vegas, around $100. The Westgate's probably the best hotel to stay at when you're here. It's cost effective. There's a monorail all the way downtown. And we're going to have a glute camp. So it'll be June 17th, July 15th, August 12th. Those are the next 3 dates. 10 a.m. followed by a glute camp at 11:30. If you guys are going to be coming out here, we're also going to be doing one in Denver, Colorado. Back to my Denver peeps.
Denver, the original.
The OG.
The original birthplace of Team Elite Physique.
I miss...
.com.
Yeah. I miss Denver for sure.
Denver misses you too.
Yeah. It's only certain times I'll get like an old picture and it'll be like all of us and like the guys and everyone. It's like, yeah, it's sad, but it's fun when I go back.
It's like a picture of you in a log cabin in a flannel with an axe, just lumberjack bro.
Just lumberjacking on my horse. There's just no, I just couldn't do it. I'm just too much of I'm a California kid, you know? I couldn't retire in the snow. I just couldn't do it. So I knew it eventually I had to leave. But yeah, there's times.
Well, I'm glad that you're here to stay now, Adam.
I love Vegas.
You better not be getting bored on me, because I know how you are. I know how you are.
I know. I'll probably do something stupid, but it's not going to be leaving Vegas. There's the problem. Here's the problem with Vegas is it ruins.
Too convenient.
It ruins all cities for you. Like as soon as you go to a different city, once you live in Vegas and you just have everything there, like if they just want to do something,
dude,
it's crazy. I mean,
I like it not only for the weather and not only for, well, I don't really get into the events and stuff like you do, but it's just so convenient. It's so convenient. Yeah. And it's a big fitness community too, but like
it's a mecca now,
you know, like you don't have to drive far away to get whatever, like, you know, it's great.
Yeah. It's just the fitness community is too great. It's the best there is right now, at least in America. I know there's some good ones in the Middle East right now too, but in America, Vegas is the mecca now. And so there's that. I mean, you just have crazy people just popping in. Hide popped in the other day. You were already gone.
I saw him the story.
I was so happy to have him here. He was here with Yumi, the first Japanese New York girl to do New York Pro, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we helped pose her, and it's just like the community's super tight, and it was like such an honor to have Hide here. So he's like, I was telling him, I was like, dude, it's such an honor. This is like me, like bodybuilding, right? As a young kid, seeing him. And I was like, I told him, like, it's such an honor to have you here because growing up, like, you were on my walls, you know, like you were someone, because he's not a big guy in terms of like his joints and structures. And so it was like, I could probably be like his size, you know, he was someone I looked up to. Yeah. So like to have him here, I was like, man, it's cool for me to like to take a step back and be like, hey, look, this is how far you've come. He trusts you to pose his girls now. And he's at your gym and he signed the wall. And I was just like, it was a cool moment because he's one of my favorite, him and Stan McQuay, you know, like growing up, I followed those guys. Like those are my guys because I could never be built like Ronnie Coleman. I knew that. Like I'm not built like Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman.
I am.
You are. Actually, you are.
Can't you tell?
I could totally. After this last show, I was like, you know, maybe just go into women's bodybuilding.
You know, almost there. Almost.
Yeah.
No, it's like, it's good though. You know, it's good to see different, it is kind of cool to see like a structure that's similar to yours and it's like, hey, that person made it. So, you know. Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of girls relate to you too. Cause you have a smaller structure, you know, you have a smaller structure and you've done really well with it too. So yeah, it's funny. Like even, Kimber, she gets a lot of that cause her height, right? She's 5'10". So all these tall girls are emailing her and they're like, we're so happy that you're doing good. It gives me motivation. And it's like, I think everyone just kind of naturally does that. Right. Mm-hmm. So, so anyway, back to, Denver and Vegas. It's just, there's just too much to do here. You know, I go to all the fights. I've always gone to all the fights, but I've never been able to go to so many fights until I moved here because there wasn't any in Denver. There'd be like 2 a year. You know, I might go to one of them or something, you know, if I can get tickets before it's sold out. But out here, it's like, there's this event going on. Hey, hey, you want to go to dinner today, babe? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, let's just go to dinner with the best chef in the world. He's like,
and there's so many cool restaurants too, like
crazy.
Themed restaurants. Do you know right by here there's an 80s themed restaurant?
Oh yeah, I've been there. They have a Ghostbuster car out front of it.
It's kind of cool.
Have you been there?
I walked inside and eat.
Okay,
I was looking for coffee.
That's right next to our poke place. We go there. I know the owner of the poke place. She's super sweet. So I know you don't like get it all the time. They know Kimber's order by heart. She drinks it like twice a week.
Okay, I can't.
I know it's so funny. You in Japan didn't want anything to do with the sushi. I'm like, Ashley, like here.
Even the avocado one smelled like fish.
Because it's so fish smelling.
Because it was near fish, and then the whole place smelled like a fish.
That's so funny. Good steak there too, though. They had good steak. And I didn't know that Japanese as a community eat the most eggs per capita too. So they had a lot of egg stuff. Did you know that? Isn't it wild?
Why isn't Muscle Egg over there, bro?
Oh, I know. Muscle Egg Japan.
MuscleEgg.com. /Team Elite Physique.
Yep. You got
.com
it.
or Team Elite Physique to save.
Yeah. Thanks. MuscleEgg.com /Team Elite Physique.
Yeah.
for a discount. And gets Ashley some eggs and they send me eggs too. Thank you guys, Muscle Egg. That's one of the best sponsors. You know, they don't require a whole bunch and they take care of us.
Hardworking chickens over there.
I like those people.
Hardworking chickens.
So, and then at the Mile High, we're going to do a posing seminar at Armbrust Pro Gym. So we love Armbrust Pro Gym. If you're coming to the Denver area for the show, the Mile High, that is the Mecca gym of Denver. That's the Mecca the Mile High. What do they call it? The Mile High Mecca. And awesome owner there, Dylan Armbrust. But we're going to do a seminar there on Thursday, June 15th.
Mm-hmm. I should be there too.
Yeah. So we'll do that.
Should be.
With Ashley. It'll be there 6:00 at Armbrust. Come on down, learn a little bit.
Come on down.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing, and if you're following Angel's going to be posting some stuff too. about doing some things, some events on
Angel Competition Bikinis.
Yep. And, they always take great care of us. So you'll be seeing all of us out there at Denver. It'll be a good show to go visit. And, yeah. So anyway, I guess is that our podcast for today?
That is our podcast for today.
Okay.
Hopefully you guys liked it. If not, oh well.
Yeah.
You made it this far, so
yeah, it sucks.
It's not like you can go back in time and fix it.
Yeah, hopefully you did something with this time during. So at least you just that would suck if you didn't like it at all and you just watched the whole thing.
Hopefully you learned a small morsel.
Yeah.
A small little.
You ever done that? You don't watch that many movies, but have you ever watched a movie and you're too far into because you're overly committed and you're 30 minutes in, you're like, I gotta watch this, I gotta see this thing through. You ever done that? Can you turn it off? You have the power to turn it off.
I can turn it off.
I've only walked out on one movie, and once I'm in 30 minutes deep, that's like my breaking point. I'm like, all right, I'm committed now. So anyway.
It's just like finishing your plate when you eat. You
just feel like I've committed to them. Like it's, it's not, it's like we're at the point of engagement on a relationship and it's just, you stuck.
Well, you're very loyal. Wow. So loyal.
It is
so
what it
loyal.
is. So
this is like the longest outro ever.
It is, isn't it? All right. Well, we'll go. How about this?
Really short.
How about this? We're done.
Bye.